Hi, let's continue. If you're lost, you can go to the table of contents. For this video, there are lots of different kinds of psychotherapy. Many have been shown to be as good as antidepressants in the treatment of several different kinds of depression and anxiety with much less risk compared to those antidepressants. And the good news is that finding and affording a psychotherapy nowadays has gotten a lot easier. I'm going to go over this list of most of the common kinds of psychotherapy and what they're for in this video, and touch on how to access them. So I'll also talk about psychodynamic psychotherapy, which is, more like the whole Freud story. Modern psychodynamic psychotherapy is a descendant of psychoanalysis. It has a bad reputation. Tell me about your mother, couches, it's expensive. The therapist just says, uh-huh. Well, most of that is wrong, but there is some truth in some of it. And the thing is, psychoanalytic psychotherapy, well, psychodynamic anyway, actually works in good research trials. And so it can be extremely helpful, but not unless you're prepared for that kind of therapy and that's what you want. The very common ones are here in green. And if you don't ask, this is probably what you're going to get. All of these have evidence for being better than like talking to a friend. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a set of tools to change thoughts and change actions and thus change outcomes. It should be done in 12 to maybe 16 sessions and then completed. And there are ways to get cognitive behavioral therapy now without even seeing a therapist. Mood Gym, for example, from the National Health Service in Australia, has been around for over 10 years, studied extensively, shown to be almost as good as seeing a live therapist, and with a little support, keeping your feet to the fire, if you will, so you stay with the program and complete the modules, as good as seeing a therapist in randomized trials. The new kid on the block is called Rejoin. It only has one randomized trial, which did show some benefit compared to a reasonable comparison treatment. The big advantage of this one is that as an app, it keeps coming after you on your phone and saying, ready to do the next thing. So you don't have to have as much motivation as you need to get through Mood Gym. Price for now is about the same. It's going to go up. We don't know exactly when, probably soon. And since CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is about acquiring skills, you can do the same by making your way through a workbook. That also requires motivation, doing the exercises, not just reading the book. There are a number of these workbooks available for CBT. Here's one for anxiety, CBT for anxiety. If you search the title and PDF for this, you can find one for free online. Maybe you could look it over first and then buy it, would be good. And for behavioral activation therapy, or BAT, there's a free version online as well in a PDF, 35 pages. Search this title and you'll find that one. IPT, interpersonal therapy, is more of a therapist thing. And then mindfulness, there are a number of mindfulness workbooks out there. Again, that's more about learning skills. I just have three more comments, and then I'll show you some other stuff. The first is if you run into someone who says they're an eclectic psychotherapist, that can be good. They might be using many of these different kinds of pieces of many of these kinds of psychotherapy. And a really good eclectic therapist will also have psychodynamic skills, which really enriches the whole thing. Some eclectic therapists just have never been trained in anything in particular, and that wouldn't be so good. There are group therapy versions of these as well. And a psychodynamically informed group therapy is an awesome tool, but they're harder to find, even though they're much more affordable than individual therapy. Now, there are psychotherapies that are specific for specific conditions. And I'm particularly interested, for example, in social rhythm therapy as a key technique in the management of bipolar, people with bipolar who are having mood problems. something called ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy. Was originally developed for people who just didn't get better with anything else. An amazing tool, and also now much more widely available. And then lastly, I shouldn't close this without mentioning attachment. Many people trained in psychotherapy regard this as kind of a core problem, attachment problems. But it's a narrow niche. There aren't many attachment therapists out there, even though it may indeed be sort of at the root of a lot of people's mood and anxiety problems. So there's the list. All of these have two things in common. You learn skills and you gain support for managing what you currently have that you haven't been able to get rid of yet using your new skills. For most people, a good fit with a therapist is more important than the particular technique that they're using. Fit meaning you feel comfortable, easy to talk with this person. It seems as though they really understand you. There are lots of ways to get psychotherapy nowadays and to do it. And the common goal, if I may paraphrase a famous prayer, the skills, you're acquiring the skills to change the things that you can, and the serenity to accept the things that you cannot. I hope you are able to get those too. From here, you can go to the non-medications playlist or to the table of contents.